Hey guys, it's Rachel. It is Thankful Thursday. Unfortunately, this is really late actually. It's like 1 a.m. So it's like Friday morning, and my days are all over the place at the moment. I thought today was Friday, so I don't know. Anyway, so I went galloping off to the kids, thinking that it was Friday, even though I was only around there yesterday with just for a little bit. And yeah, bottle of wine in hand and thinking it was a Friday, to realise when I got there it was a Thursday. And then I was like, I need to get home and make my video a lot later than than I intended. So I've been spending some time with some tiny little bunny babies, and there's a picture on my Twitter and one on my Facebook, and I can maybe just put a link. I haven't been able to update my blog recently, but maybe put a link to my Twitter and a picture, because it's the most precious thing in the world. And I haven't even got to today, what today's topic is, but seeing life, seeing something that's literally this big on your hand and having it there, and it being so precious, so vulnerable, and yet allowing you to hold it in your hand, and it needing the security of maybe another hand, and it's enough to bring tears to your eyes, because you're seeing nature and you're seeing how a mother is with her babies and the nest that she provides, and in some strange way it puts quite a lot of things into perspective, and it makes you think about what matters, makes you think about what's important. It just makes you feel alive, and it's just, yeah, I wouldn't take that moment from myself. I've got a little thread there, haven't I? I've got a little thread. Anyway, so that's all of that. I've rambled on nearly 3 minutes about that. So today we are going to be looking at dealing with anxiety, and we're not necessarily dealing with anxiety individually, in the sense of if you have some sort of anxiety disorder. We're dealing with anxiety in the sense of the rota that we've been following. And last week, what's leading on to this week, is last week, if you remember, or if you didn't see the video, was to do with trying to stop ourselves, or means of delaying what could be potentially a negative behaviour, action, a bad decision basically. So something that I didn't like using the word wrong, but something that would not be conducive to your health, something that would not be conducive to your recovery, something that you may regret, something that is impulsive. And what obviously comes with that, when you try to not use behaviours, or think about using, if you're trying to resist impulsive actions, what you're going to need is you're going to need some means of managing that, and you're going to need some means of coping with that, and you're going to be left with a lot of anxiety. Anxiety can manifest itself in agitation and feeling very wound up. It can manifest itself in feeling incredibly vulnerable and tearful. It can maybe manifest itself in a quite angry type of way. It depends on what behaviour you're looking at using. So for example, if I am dealing with very impulsive actions with regards to self-harm that I've done to myself before, involving hitting myself, hitting walls, or that type of thing, that's to do with containment. And the anxiety of that is this desperate need to have to get stuff out. And one of the things that when people have been with me, there's been two things actually that people have done when I felt that intensity to, so you might not necessarily want to hit yourself, you might want to hit something else, you might want to destroy something, you might want to slam something and bang something and throw things, and just like absolutely you just feel like you just need to like completely lose the plot. And it's happened countless times for me, and I've had incredible breakdowns where I've just hit out at everybody, hit my parents, hit whoever's in my way and needed to be restrained. And one thing that someone did to me once, and I'll never forget it, is I just had so much anxiety, so much tension inside of me, that she just literally, I remember, and she was tiny, and she just wrapped her arms around me, and my hands were like my arms, can you see how they're down like this? And she just put herself like that and held like that, so literally I couldn't move. I could not move. She was like solid, and I'm pretty fucking strong, and she was just, and I couldn't move. And in the end I just burst into tears. I don't know how long, I just burst into tears, put my head on her shoulder, and slowly she released, you know, that she was holding me, and I just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. And that was the fallout of not being able to continue to just be incredibly impulsive, and not to hurt myself ultimately, which, given my state of mind at that moment, I was capable of anything. I was capable of running across a road and not even thinking about it. I was just capable of anything because my head wasn't in that place. And another example with a situation like that, I'm using these examples because these are the closest things that have happened to me in a more recent period. They might not be tangible, actual self-harm, but it is harmful towards me. It is for somebody just to literally kind of not scream at me, but kind of scream at me and just like grab my arm. And one of my good friends did that with me and just made me walk. And she just made me walk. And we just walked and walked and walked and walked. And she knew my reaction. I'd already launched my phone at something. And all she knew in that moment was that my bubbling anxiety and frustration had to terminate, because otherwise I was going to hurt myself or somebody else or whatever. And so that anxiety was taken away by walking in that way, by just literally grabbing my arm and forcing me to walk and saying, you are walking until you have calmed down. And so they're two very different ways of dealing with very, very intense feelings and having to restrain yourself from them and having to manage that agitation, that anxiety. For me, I don't get anxious very often, and when I was stopping using Behaviours, mine's very much an agitation. It's very much a kind of pacing back and forth, and for everybody it's different. I think that for a lot of people with behavioural difficulties such as self-harming, such as purging, or that type of thing, that's a very it's a very physical action taken out on yourself. So if it's restriction, for example, and you are dealing with the anxiety after eating, that type of anxiety, if you want somebody who purges, is different than the anxiety perhaps of somebody who is used to eating and being sick. And so you have all these different levels of anxiety, and you have all of these needs that need meeting, and it's very often trial and error with regards to what works. For me, my agitation obviously was incredibly high after eating when I was in recovery, and it was a matter of somebody being around me so that I couldn't go and be sick. or do whatever, or just like completely like lose it or go and hurt myself or whatever. And it was a matter of just literally practice all the different things that can help. And quite often what I used to do with the anxiety around food is I kind of used to call it eat and go. So my meals would be planned around having something to eat and then getting out of the house, or when I was having lunch at university, to make sure that I had a class straight after. So it was literally a switch, and it didn't mean that I necessarily wasn't anxious, it just meant it was kind of something physical to do. So have my breakfast, you know, go and get into the car, drive to university, it was doing something, and those types of things really helped me. When it came to self-harming, it was very difficult because I was very calm with it. So it was about understanding that my reasons behind self-harming were to prevent me being anxious. So it wasn't like I got anxious and self-harmed. It was more of a matter of I believed I would be anxious if I didn't self-harm. So I quite religiously self-harmed every morning under the impression that I would be able to manage the day with that. And so when it came to stopping that, it was a case of saying, well, what is the worst thing that's going to happen? And it could mean being anxious the whole day, but I got through it, and I didn't always get through it. And I think that's what the solution is for you when it comes to anxiety, is realizing that you can get yourself through it. And it's a horrible thing to have to deal with. I sometimes get incredibly agitated about things. My head kind of starts going, and it's about resistance. And when it comes to kind of drug and alcohol, I suppose it's different because there's a physical thing there, in terms of withdrawal. But you know, equally, ceasing self-harming has a physical impact on you, because it does produce an effect in the body, in the same way that eating disorder behaviours do. So I think that it is about trial and error. I think that it's about knowing that anxiety doesn't kill you. I think it's knowing that it does get better. I think it's about trusting that people like me have been through that, and that yes, it was hard, yes, it was awful, yes, sometimes the anxiety was just so overwhelming, but in time I built up ways of coping with it. I built up means of coping with it. I learned how to use my voice if I was anxious, and you find your own ways. You find your own ways. I'm someone who, if somebody had said sit and meditate, I'd have gone, I don't think so, I need to go for a run. Whereas now, I don't really exercise at all, but you could probably get me to sit down and meditate. And it's about just bringing that in. And I've done it with my goddaughter, actually, with the meditation, as I spoke last week about it. And it's just about finding what is right for you at each point of your recovery. So what works one moment won't the next. Sometimes you might just want a hug after you've had a meal, okay? You just want someone to hug you and hold you. Other times you might need to actually just do something physical, like get out and go for a quick walk, or get in a car, go and see somebody. One of my biggest distractions was going to go and see the kids. It was like, right, I'm going today. It's been shit. It's been really crap. And I was like, right, I'm taking a bottle of wine and I'm going to see the kids. And I went, and I've seen the kids. I've seen that precious little thing of life. I've seen Kath have caught up with everybody, and that to me is still me learning, and so you're still learning, and that's all it is about, and that's all we can do. And I need to go before this gets to 15 minutes, and I love you, and I'm sorry that it's late, and take care. Bye bye.